Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the No BS With Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century when they exit the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Today, I am so excited to talk about this topic, right? And it's all around managing your cash flow, right? And I had a very interesting conversation with a client the other day. And I'll go into brief discussion of what we discussed and, context of it, and then we'll go on from there. But I realized that a lot of people out there focus on acquiring assets, but they're not thinking about managing the assets. And the old saying, what is it? It's like the dollar saved is $2 earned. A lot of people, think about earning money and all that sort of stuff, but they're not thinking about the cash flow. And I think, we talk a lot about, let's buy 20 properties, let's build a portfolio, let's get to retirement, whatnot. And I actually think that most people are much closer to retirement than what they actually even understand or can fathom, right? This whole topic today is about managing your revenue, managing your cash flow. As an investor, you need to treat your investing like a business. I've said it since day one of starting B.Invested, back when it was just a little education company when I first started back in 2009. Your numbers don't lie. Treat your property investing like a business, and you need to know where every cent goes from an expenditure, and you need to know where your income's coming from. And, I feel that a lot of people, one thing I observe, right, we buy thousands of properties a year for ourselves and our investors, and out of those properties, I reckon 90% of them probably are under-rented severely, right? When I say severely, they could be $50 under-rented. They could be, $100 under-rented. It could be $150 under-rented, right? And I always think to myself, if the investor that's selling the property to us, right, dumbass because they've trusted someone, right? I don't say it lightly that they're a dumbass or whatever. It's just say it tongue-in-cheek, right? They've trusted a real estate agent to give them a figure or give them a rental figure or whatever the case may be. And that's about it, right? So if the property was getting an extra $100 a week, $5,000 a year, would that person that sold their property be selling their property? If the property is being sold to us cheap and under rented to us cheap, it's not just the property that's under market value when we acquire it, it's the rent that's under market value. And 90% of the rents out there are under the market rent. Right, and the agents are not proactive because they're too lazy or they're just not smart enough, or there's lots of reasons as to why the agents. So, as an investor, I look at it that my properties are my staff, my tenants are my customers to the thing. My property managers are like senior management in a business. And as a property investor, you need to make sure that you've got a good hold of things, right? You just can't take everything for everyone's word, right? So, how are you managing the revenue on your business, right? You've got a business there. Are you getting optimal cash flow in? Are you minimizing your expenses going out? They're the really important part. So I'll tell you the story. Let's call this person Bob, just for the fun of it, right? Bob's not their name, but let's just call this person Bob, right? I was talking to Bob. Bob has like 25 properties in his portfolio. And Bob's been investing for a while. Bob bought 2 properties off me going back like 3 years ago, right? Properties have doubled or tripled or whatever. They've done tremendously, right? So Bob's very happy with his properties. So I was talking to Bob, and he had a goal to get to 50 properties. And I was like, cool, we'll get to 30 this year and we'll move forward. I'll get you to 50, don't worry about it, right? Very, very achievable, right? And I said to Bob, hey, what rents are you getting? And just on those 2 properties that I knew that I bought, we didn't have property management there at the time. So for those of you that are listening that may or may not know, I have a property management firm, which is a national company. And with that, I've got hundreds of staff, and looking at the properties, I want to make sure I'm running my business more like a hedge fund rather than a real estate office, because the real estate agents are lazy out there, right? So we need to be very proactive. And I didn't have the team, right, in all these locations. So I'm literally in every state and every corner of the country. 95% of properties in the country I can manage for my investors. And I said to Bob, hey, what rents are you getting for those ones? Because I never managed any of his properties. And he said, oh, I'm getting like $330 for this one. I'm getting like, $310 for this one, whatever. And I was like, hang on a second, those things should be like $360 and $420 and stuff like that. I said, hey, Bob wants to go and buy the next property or next couple of properties. And I said, that's cool, I'll get you the property, but I think we're leaving money on the table. And I knew some of the locations of the properties, and this person sent me where those properties were, told me some of the locations. I'm like, fuck, like I think you could be $100 here, $60 here. What I want you to do for homework, send me an email with all of your properties listed. And Bob sent over the email with all the properties after about a week or so. And I went, wow. And I put into an Excel spreadsheet the current rents and the address of the current rents. And then I put in there what I thought they could be rented. And I put in some Excel sort of columns and whatnot. And I realised that there's about $83,000 a year shortfall that this person is getting. They could be getting extra rent by being on top of their revenue, right? That's 83 grand. Like someone could quit their job for 83 grand. Their spouse could quit, whatever, right? You get 83 grand improved cash flow this year, and then next year the interest rates come down by 1%. Just make it up a 1% figure here, and you got $5 million worth of debt. There's another 50K you're saving. There's 130 grand a year. How are you managing your revenue, right? When was the last time you sat there and looked at it? You should be managing a business. Doesn't go, oh, we'll look at our revenue in another 5 years, right? They go bankrupt. They go broke, right? That's why most investors lose out. They're not taking their cash flow serious. They're not taking their investing serious. So as a serious investor, you need to be looking and reviewing that on a quarterly basis, right? And, if you've got one property and you're going to put the rent up 1 to 3, 6 to 12 months, well then, it's a different story. But if you've got 5 properties, well then one might expire this month and one might expire in 2 months' time and whatnot. You need to be constantly on the ball to make sure you're holding your property managers accountable that you're getting the right revenue coming through, right? Because 90% of agents are doing a shit job at managing the revenue on the properties and not getting the right rental figure. And, that's crucial, right? For any business, like you're trusting who's the person you're dealing with at the property management. Property management is a very transient business. The average property manager lasts about 6 months in a business, right? That's an industry standard, right? Touch wood, I've got some staff that have been with me for 5 years. I've had some that have lasted 10 years with me, right? So as a business, who was the person you're dealing with today, and will that change in 6 months or 12 months time or 3 months time? What does that look like? Who's managing that revenue overall? Very, very important. So besides just managing the income component of it, and I'll get to why agents don't get the highest income in a moment, but it made me think down to expenditure and costs, right? And I was talking about an analogy, and this is very accurate analogy, right? For those of you that know or don't know, in Corona I bought 30 motels, right? And a lot of them I'm doing renovations on, right? And I have to look down to the light bulb, right? Let's say there's 30 rooms in a motel. There's 3 lights per room. That's 3 times 30. There's 90 light bulbs throughout the rooms, and you've got maybe another 50 in the common areas, right? If I had to change the light fitting or the light bulb or the electricity that's going to that and the wattage and all that, that could be, let's say it's $10, right? There's $10 times 100, there's $1,000. If there's difference between one light fitting at $100 and one at $200, there's a difference of, $10,000 just by that one item costing double, right? And, it can scale out. You've got 20 of those getting renovated at a time, or 10 of them getting renovated. There's, let's say there's 20 motels getting 100 new light fittings, and there's, 2,000 light fittings at $100. There's 200 grand versus 100 grand. The scaling across your portfolio, you want to be an investor with a large property portfolio, you need to look at everything down to the carpet you put into the properties, the tiles you put in the properties, the cans of paint you put into them, how you stack your renovations in the properties. I've got a reno for one of my investors at the moment. I'm doing full reno. We're just managing it as a part of something we do. He's bought quite a few properties from us recently, bought 10 in 3 months or something like that. And I've got my trades going in there. I'm getting a kitchen, a bathroom, paint, flooring, all materials, maybe 20, 25 grand as a reno to be done, right? So how do you stack your renos in there? So they're all things you need to look at, managing that revenue, right? But the biggest one that I think people fail on is just not getting the right income, right? So I'm going to break away to a little, not a commercial for you guys, but I've got the property management firm all the way across the country. I'm going to leave a little email here. It's a very fun one. It's just payrise@blinkproperty.com.au. This is my personal email. So I'm going to leave this banner for the rest of this video. If you're watching it from the podcast, if you're listening to it from the podcast, payrise, very easy word, PAYRISE @blinkproperty.com.au. So send me an email. There's my personal email inbox. I get flooded with emails, flooded with these. I personally review all your properties. So what I need you to do, send me an email saying, hey, I want to do a review. I will personally send you an Excel spreadsheet, fill out all your details on the spreadsheet. I will come back to you within maybe 72 hours, within 3 business days, 5 business days, with a review for you. I personally do the reviews. I do the reviews for all of my investors, tens of thousands of properties that we manage across all the different locations. I manage these. I review the rents myself personally from a quality assurance purposes inside of my business. I want to make sure that I'm the one pushing the button on the rents. My staff are fantastic. They do tremendous jobs. They go out there. They do everything immaculate, right? And I reckon 85% of the time when they do the rent reviews, they're on the money. But there's times where I'm like, I can push it a little bit further. I can push it a little bit further, right? And that's the difference between, when was the last time your property manager called you up and said, hey, do a rent review, right? Depending what state you are, some do them 3 monthly, sometimes we do them 6 monthly. And statutory changes from the government means that we can only do some locations once a year. How's the lease? How do we get around doing them? Like in New South Wales, it says once a year, but how do we get around to be able to do them every 3 months? It's how the lease is stacked and how the process is stacked, and there's laws that you can get around on that, right? So, and that doesn't apply in Queensland and Western Australia, for example, but for New South Wales it does. So if you have a property and I'm not managing it, if I'm managing it, well then I'm on top of it already. But if I'm not managing it, flick me an email at this email address, payrise@blinkproperty.com.au, and I'll review your rents and see if we can squeeze some extra cash flow from it for you. So getting back to, why don't real estate agents do this? Well, we're going to look at the processes of a real estate office, right? Who is managing? What is property management when it comes to a real estate office? Property management is an incubator for sales. It's a department at the back of the real estate office. Let me tell you, as a business owner of a property management firm, I have properties everywhere. I've got lots of staff. It's a very thankless job. It's the shittest business someone could get into, right? It's a thankless job, right? My staff do a tremendous job. I've been through lots and lots of staff, hundreds of staff over the years to get the best staff that I can find out there. And we have processes and systems and procedures to ensure that our clients are getting the best outcome on their portfolio, to make sure that we're maximising, minimising expenditure, minimising communication, making sure communication's very good because it's bad out there. But in the industry, property management is just seen as, the property management department over there, whatever, right? The agent that's working for you, let's say they're there for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months as your property manager, because very high turnover, because it's a thankless job. You've got tenants coming in abusing you, you've got landlords going, I don't want to do this, and legal matters to be dealt with. It's just processes to be successful in property management. If someone's thinking of setting up a property management business, processes, systems, procedures, right? Every time I grow the business, and it's on a weekly and monthly basis, we just have to keep recruiting more staff and getting more staff and getting more staff and accommodating for the changes in our processes and systems to grow. I look at most property management firms, and they might have one property manager per 200 properties, right? And that's to get the maximum sort of cash flow out of it, right? And it's really, you work with like $20 a week times 100 properties, 200 properties, 300 properties to a real estate office. The staffing costs outweigh that. So they try and cut corners where they can, right? I didn't set up my business to make money per se. I wanted to set it up so I get the best rent and my investors get the best outcome. I've got the best policies and processes in the town. That's what's important to be successful. So a lot of money has to get invested. But as a business, the property managers that come on board, they're not getting paid $1 million a year, right? They're copping more shit than anybody would, right? They get yelled at and sworn at more than anyone in the pub would, right? They're copping pressures left, right, and centre. They've got compliances like you've never seen beforehand out there. And the last thing they want to do is send out 1,000 rent increases to tenants and have all the tenants crying poor, calling them up, communicating them to them, saying, oh, why'd you put my rent up for? I can't afford this, I can't afford that, giving them sob stories. And it means more work for them to do on a daily basis, right? So you need to have processes around that. So the normal real estate agent's like, oh yeah, just get $300 a week and not taking too much. They're not proactive. They're not telling you, hey, put your rent up, whatever. I realize that my investors' portfolios are an extension of my portfolio, right? If I push someone's rent up $10, cool, right? You pay the management fee. So the $10, right? If your management fee is 7%, 6%, 8%, 10%, they vary in different locations throughout the country, depending on the size of the rent, depending on where the property is, etc., etc. People try and cut corners. Oh, this property manager is 1% cheaper than this one or whatever. Some areas we're cheaper than others. Some areas a bit more expensive. But 1% of $200, $300, $400 a week rent, it's $1, $2, $3. It's irrelevant, right? But the way I look at it from the service that I deliver to my investor is that if I put the rent up by $10, right? Let's say it's 7%, right? That's 70 cents per week to the office. It's fuck all, right? 70 cents, right? If a staff is managing 100 properties, right? 200 properties. My staff manage, on average, 60 properties per head count of staff. 60 is not fucking heard of in the industry, right? I lose money. I joke about it with everyone that I run a charity, right? But the fact is that when I treat it like a business and I can push those rents up, those micro little amounts that I can push up, 70 cents. If I push up 1,000 rents, right? 70 cents, that's $700 per week, right? If I push the rent up by $50, that's $2,500 a week extra that I'm getting as a business, right? If I've got 5,000 properties and I push the rent up by $50, you can do the numbers, right? So that's how I can afford to put in all the extra infrastructure. But every bit of money that I get, it goes back into growing the team and growing the systems, growing the procedures and all that sort of stuff. But property management business is like, oh, how can we squeeze a little bit extra money out? Most real estate offices have a loan attached to their rent roll. They have a debt attached to it, right? So they have to pay loan fees and all that sort of stuff. So their business is built very differently to how ours is built. So we're trying to get a solution which is the end solution for the investor rather than, trying to build some garage band style version of a real estate office hedge fund. And I think this is an industry that, I've set out 11, 12 years ago to disrupt, and I've done a big change in the industry, and especially for our investors. But I see that the next decade, 2 decades, there's going to be so much changes to the property investment space, property management space, where firms like mine come in and we run it more like a hedge fund. And that's, we're not going to get into too much of the business model and all that sort of stuff. But as for, why the property management, imagine the property manager that could be on $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, $70,000 a year, $80,000 a year, let's call it $100,000 a year, cops 200, 500 calls. Why the fuck you put a rent? I'm going to come and blow up your office. I'm going to shoot your office. Like, seriously, the threats that come, the things that happen on a day-to-day basis, right? We'll write an action movie about this stuff, right? So agents are reluctant to push those rents up. We run it like a bank, like an institution, right? Maybe I'm known as the faceless people out there, right? When it comes to, like, you talk about the banks and the elite and all that, maybe we are that to the property management space, right? We're very fair. The tenants are a part of our ecosystem. We need to make sure that they're protected. Their properties are good. We don't want to take on a slumlord that's going to have no maintenance, hazards for tenants, all that sort of stuff, right? But our revenue is something I take great pride on for our investors because we're on top of that. And I think 90% of agents, it's by luck that they're getting the rents right. If they do get it right, I don't think there's anyone out there as proactive as we are with the rents. And I see that as a direct relationship to, every one of my investors is an extension of my own portfolio. 2 cents here, 10 cents there, 50 cents there. It all adds up because I'm dealing with microtransactions on such a large scale. So, on that front, property managers are not designed to look after, like, let's say you're an investor, you've got 10 properties, right? $50 a week rental loss, right? You're under market by $50. And I would say that at least, like the average rent increase would be over $50 per week rent increase. When we acquire the asset, we go through, put it out the other side, $50 minimum, right? And I think about it, some people come to us and say, okay, that's on the money, right? We're cool. But just general market out there, if you got 10 properties, $50, that's $500 a week. That's $26,000 a year. That's the difference between the wife going back to work after she's had a kid, or you not having her go back to work, right? You've entrusted. You're just hoping, you're praying that the property manager that's sitting there doesn't give a fuck about you, is getting you the extra revenue that you deserve or that you set out in your business to do. No one's more vested in your well-being than yourself, right? And you need to be reviewing. You need to be on the top of the rents. I encourage all my investors to hold me accountable, hold my business accountable, to go, hey, I've checked online. Do you think we can push it a bit harder, right? But what's your property manager doing for you? What have they done? When was the last time they asked you? I'm going to leave it at that, folks. When was the last time they asked you, hey, this is what we should do with rents? Giving you suggestions, being proactive. Has it been you chasing their ass, right? If it is, you know where to find us. The link's below. Send me an email personally. Go back to your property manager. If they're good, good. If they're not, you know where to find us. I'd like to manage your properties. I want to manage everybody's properties. I want to be the largest property management firm in the country. We're on our way to do that. We're very, very much on the way. In stealth mode, we've been there for many years. And, I'd love to be able to help you with your portfolio. So feel free to reach out to us. Send us an email, admin. I don't know why I was saying send us an email, admin at B.Invested. It's so common that I say that, right? Send me personally an email to payrise@blinkproperty.com.au. I'm not going to say call us or anything. Just send me the email directly. If I think we can do something, you'll have an email back within a couple of days after I've reviewed your position. Make a decision, whatever you want to do. Here to help. Thanks a lot for watching. If you do like what we have to share, share it around on your social media. Share it with your friends and family that are property investors today. Smash up a like. And remember to subscribe, Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, and YouTube every Thursday. See you next week. Have a great week. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar back to die, soon to be hyperinflated.